monocle walks into a bar. After a few drinks, he starts to feel pretty good and a little uncoordinated. He reaches for a cigarette, but the bartender stops him. "Sorry, buddy, but due to city ordinances, we don't allow smoking in here. You'll have to step outside to smoke." So the monocle hops off the bar stool and grabs his cigarettes to head outside. Meanwhile, a second monocle emerges from the bathroom. They bump into each other as they cross paths and fall to the floor, hopelessly entangled. They try to get free, but the more they struggle, the more tangled they become. The bartender looks down on this travesty and shakes his head. "Hey, you two," he shouts. "Stop making spectacles of yourselves." A man enters a monastery and talks to the head monk. He says he wants to join. "Okay," says the head monk, "but we have a rule. Unless you're the head monk, you're only allowed to say one sentence per year on New Year's Day." "Okay," says the guy. "I can do that." The first New Year's Day comes around and all the monks gather to say their sentences. Most of them are about enlightenment and the grace of God, but when it's our protagonist's turn, his lips utter, "The food is a bit salty." Another year comes and goes. It was a leap year, so our guy has had an extra day to think about what he's going to say. This time, his sentence is, "The chairs could be softer." Yet another year passes. This time, he's had another year to think. His sentence is, "I want to leave." "I can entirely understand," says the head monk. "In all the time you've been here, I've heard nothing but complaints from you." A mother was cleaning her 10-year-old son's bedroom one day when she found an adult bondage magazine under his mattress. She was mortified. She put the dirty magazine back under the mattress, thinking that she would show her husband when he got home from work. A few hours later, when he got home, she led him to their son's bedroom, pulled out the magazine, and showed it to him. He opened the magazine slowly, flicked through the pages, his eyes wide. He handed the magazine back to her without a word. So she asked him, "What the heck should we do?" The dad paused, cleared his throat, and said, "I'm no expert, but I don't think you should spank him."
Husband always insisted on making love in the dark. After 20 years, wife turns on the light, finds him holding a vibrator. She goes ballistic. "You impotent BAS ***. How could you lie to me all these years?" Husband looks her straight in the eyes, and calmly says, "I'll explain the toy, you explain the kids."
Mr. Smith goes to the doctor's office to collect his wife's test results. The nurse says to him, "I'm sorry, sir, but there has been a bit of a mix-up and we have a problem. When we sent the samples from your wife to the lab, the samples from another Mrs. Smith were sent as well, and we are now uncertain which one is your wife's. Frankly, it is either bad or terrible." "What do you mean?" said Mr. Smith. "Well, one Mrs. Smith has tested positive for Alzheimer's, and the other Mrs. Smith has tested positive for AIDS. We can't tell which is your wife." "That's terrible," said Mr. Smith. "Can we do the test over?" "Normally, yes, but with British Columbia Healthcare, they won't pay for these expensive tests more than once." "Well, what am I supposed to do now?" said Mr. Smith. "BC Health recommends that you drop your wife off in the middle of town. If she finds her way home, don't sleep with her."